Hi guys, Prayer Plant Girl here. A lot has been happening in the garden in the last week and a half, 2 weeks here, and I thought it was time that I gave you a little catch up on what I've been doing and what's been happening. So stay tuned and we'll try and give you a quick recap of the last couple of weeks in my garden. Mid-September, I decided that I was running a little bit late here on getting the garlic in the ground. So I grabbed 3 of my largest bulbs of garlic that I had grown this year. The label of this garlic had no definite name on it, but I've been told it looks like a music garlic. It's a hardneck garlic. You can see it had huge cloves on it, and I planted those. I didn't get as many cloves as I'd expected because, I mean, look at the size of these things that were on there. So I got them planted out in the garden, spaced them down, to about my, I don't know, second knuckle or whole finger width, length there, I guess. And then I spaced them out, from my thumb to my index finger there, about, I don't know, 6-8 inches, whatever it was there, 6 inches probably. And I just alternated spacing and went row by row there until I got those planted in. And then I thought that wasn't enough garlic, so I went to the store. I found some garlic. It wasn't real great garlic. I had to go through and discard anything that was soft or mushy. There was some nasty bits in there, but took those all out and got those planted. Then next on my list was to get the compost bins emptied out as much as possible. So I had some compost here that had been sitting in this bin just being stored. So I got it emptied out and got it spread out onto some of my beds. I like to just empty the bins out for the winter, and I just put it all on the garden beds, and then it's there. They're mended, they're ready with some nice fresh compost as soon as spring happens. And it leaves the bins open. I like to fill this one with leaves over the winter, so I can use that to mix into the compost in the other larger bin as I have food scraps through the winter, and then I have a good load ready as soon as it warms up and thaws out in the spring to get a good compost started. So that's all I was doing here, just getting as much compost spread out and emptied out as I could. Broccoli was still looking great. Kale was looking super there, and you can just see how nice that compost is. So I just got it all in there. While I was doing this, I was also trying to clean the garden out. So you'll see as I just kind of pull a few stakes and things out along my way. I also was working on getting whatever plants were done for the season out of the way there. So this bed here was pumpkin and beans and corn, and so I just went through. I'd cut the beans back quite a while ago and done a lot of pruning on the pumpkins, but the rest of it needed to come out, and that's what I was working on here. And then I got all the staking out for the pumpkins. And then you can see I just got the clippers out there, and I just started taking down the corn. This seems to be the easiest way in a bed like this. Corn gets such deep roots, so I just cut it off, pile it up, and then the roots, they break down and they're out of my way usually by the spring. If there's anything left, they break down in the soil there, so I just leave them. Once I got as much as I could out of that bed, I continued with emptying out that compost bin and adding the compost. So that's just kind of what I did, and what I usually do in the fall there. So just as I get things emptied out, I just put as much compost as I can on top and try and keep the beds filled and ready to go for next spring. I still had a few hills of potatoes in the ground that I'd put. Mom had given me a bunch of her extra seed potatoes, and I just kind of popped them in random places all over the yard. So here you can see me and my little garden helper out digging up a hill of potatoes. They must have been Pontiac, I'm thinking, because that's what Mama gave me, and I think that's all I had planted in the ground was from her. But it was a pretty nice show of potatoes there. Those actually look like carobs, so maybe I planted some of my carob potatoes in the ground too. It's only a week ago, but I can't even remember anymore. It's been a busy few weeks. Yeah, lots of help there in the garden, you can see. If you saw my harvest of the potato bags, then you saw that I was just dumping the soil out into the one garden bed. So then I needed to spread it all out. So I just got that spread out in this bed that had broccoli and eggplant and cauliflower and cabbage, and had a few tomatoes in the back of that bed too. But just got it all cleaned out and, all spread out there and ready as it could. Then I just needed to have a quick little look because the parsnips have been sitting here. They're full of lush green growth on top, but I just wanted to make sure they were actually doing something on the bottom before I bothered leaving there to get all wet and frozen. So it's kind of shadowy here, but if you look, yeah, there was a pretty nice parsnip on the bottom there. So I'm going to assume the rest are looking somewhat like that and leave them. They're always better after frost. Still had cucumbers coming along, so popped a few off. I think that wound up being my last harvest of the season there. You can see the plants weren't looking too bad, but the weather was changing fast around here, and so I took those off. I think I made some pickles that day. My front yard was quickly turning into a disaster with all the rain that we'd had earlier in the month. And it's mostly rocks with a few planting beds. I don't have landscape fabric under much of it, and so I do have to come out about once a month and pull weeds. And so I had to get on that job because it was getting pretty bad, and I don't want the neighbors having to look at that. The ladybugs are just everywhere. Everywhere I look, and every time I roll over a rock or anything, there are just ladybugs. They really like this bed with all the rocks there. I think it heats things up and gives them a nice spot. It's getting cool at night, so they're always hiding under the things there. And yeah, the bees are busy too this time of year. I also still had a lot of dirty seed trays and pots and things, so I just had them in some bleach water there, giving them all a quick scrub, getting them organized, so I could take them in the house for when I'm starting seeds next year. I don't know how well it shows up on this video, but there was just, and I'm not even sure if I think there might be wasps or some sort of a bee, but they're just everywhere in the pollinator garden this one day. It was just wonderful to see. Still getting lots of tomatoes. These are an orange cherry type of tomato. They're actually quite large, but I was still getting quite a bit of tomatoes. You can see the plants are they're done. I've never seen my plants get to such a terrible look this time of year, but it has been a really odd year weather-wise for us, and a lot more moisture than we're used to, and I'm thinking that must be part of it, because even my ones in the raised beds, not just the ones in the pots, were just looking sickly. I wound up pulling them all out by the end of the week, but there was still a lot there, so had to have a snack while I was out there. Bees are busy there too. So like I say here, I pruned these tomatoes way back, but then I wound up pulling this all out. Like I said, the weather was changing quickly. And like I said, the weather turned quickly on us, so I'm glad I got as much as I got done that week, because it's a little look at things to come. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.